again, everybody. Welcome to Can't Wait. Sounds terrible. We're commercial free this week, so you can listen to us without interruption. But we should be sponsored by the law firm of Sturm and Drang. Think you've got problems? Don't worry, it's worse than you thought. Sturm and Drang. We've got a lot to cover or uncover, as the case may be. Let's just start with just a light touching of the fact that the unions are making a lot of news this week. They just broke the caps, the International Union of Operating Engineers, better known to most Chicagoans as Local 150, just broke the caps in the Illinois Secretary of State race, the hotly contested Illinois Secretary of State race, with a $255,000 contribution on advertising through its independent expenditure PAC, all to support Democrat Alexei Janulius. And the Capital Facts reports, I'm sorry, this was I take that back. This is our friend Shia over at Playbook, reports that the ad spend is large enough to lift the contribution limits for all candidates in the race. Really quick, who is running against Alexei Janulius for Secretary of State in the fall?
My houseplant.
It's a bot.
Yeah. Patrick's houseplant, also known as Republican challenger Diane Harris, who does not have probably $255,000 in her campaign kitty. So obviously it's about the Secretary of State's race, Eleni, but it's really not about the Secretary of State's race, is it?
Yeah. Anyone who's looking to run for the Secretary of State's race, I think this should be your sign to do so, because I don't think that Alexei is planning to run for Secretary of State again. I think we will see him at some point soon here enter the chat of Chicago's mayoral race. So the question is, when will he make that announcement? I think he's honestly done, like somebody document, oh wait, this is being recorded. He's done a very good job at running this operation behind the scenes, locking everything down that needs to be locked down, particularly as we see these donations coming in. And at some point soon, he's going to kick this off. And I think we talked about it last week. That's when we'll really see the dust settle as to who's left in the race.
Meanwhile, Patrick, the AFL-CIO recently announced that they've deferred all decisions on legislative and statewide endorsements in the upcoming fall election. That is, at least for the time being, bad news for Democratic candidates for statewide and legislative office. What's that about?
I think it's about the fact that you don't want to be taken for granted. And natural allies have differences of opinions about how to accomplish big things. And I think it's clear that organized labor is not feeling the love at the moment. And so it'll be an interesting dynamic to see when they come together, when they announce. I think for those playing the long national game, it's an interesting dynamic where those unions play an incredibly important role in the Democrat national process for running for office and all of these things. And so we'll see if there can be a meeting of the minds over the summer.
So, Rachel, we've heard some conversations with some regional labor leaders who work particularly in the construction trades, that they've been feeling a little disgruntled with the Democrat Party in Illinois. But every once in a while this happens. There's a little family fight, but the unions always go right into the Democrat tank.
I mean, I would say usually they do, but not always, right? I worked a race a number of years ago where we got a pro-union Republican elected. We flipped a seat, and part of the reason we were able to do that is because the unions were upset with the incumbent, right? And they sided with our guy, and we flipped that seat. it happens. It's not likely to happen a lot. I'm not sure this is the year where we're going to see it happening in mass when you look at the candidates, including Patrick's plant. But I am excited that the caps are broken. I'm looking forward to seeing the money that's going to come in for Patrick's plant. And the slogan, I'm going to pitch this to you right now, plant, a ficus like us. You know, you're just like the rest. We're all house plants. Yeah, for now.
Yes.
250 G's. We can burn that message in, Rachel. We can have a viable.
I think we can. For any donors listening right now, you can send them to Patrick's office. You know, but back to the larger point. Back to the larger point. The unions can sway things in unexpected ways when they want to. So let's watch and see what happens.
A ficus like us. That it fits on a bumper sticker.
That
I
came
already
too
had t-shirts
quickly,
printed.
Rachel. That came too quickly.
So, Natalie, you may have heard that state and city leaders here in the great city of Chicago and the state of Illinois say that crime is down. I think you've heard that. On last Friday night on the far south side, 12 people were shot in one incident where some bad guys in a red SUV opened up on a large crowd, but the crime is down. And so in order to keep crime down at City Hall, there was a press conference of faith leaders and activists that was probably mostly put together and organized by Mayor Johnson's administration, calling for a new Department of Gun Violence Prevention. And they thought that they needed about $100 million to fund this Department of Gun Violence Prevention. It was a pretty impressive turnout of local faith leaders from all over the city.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I think of like effectiveness and really executing on things, I think more government is what we need, and more money to government is what we need. Not to mention all the wonderful nonprofit agencies out in the communities doing the actual work, who the city is underfunding. So it's the height of irony. And to your point, it's the mayor's allies who are coming together. And I think that, if you keep saying, crime is down, maybe eventually people will start feeling that way. But there's a strong divide between what people are feeling and what the math shows. So I'm not sure another ill-run, underfunded government agency is what we need to keep the stats trending in the right direction.
Wasn't Oprah promoting a school of thought for a while? If you just envision success, that the success will happen.
I think that's what we should tell the ficus. Just manifest your victory, and
you could
it'll happen.
be Secretary of State. There are already, WGN TV pointed out that there are already several other agencies with multi-million-dollar funding of their own that are responsible for a variety of public safety roles and responsibilities.
Yeah, I think
100 million.
more, just more,
Yep.
more.
I like that this department is exclusively focused on gun violence, which means there will be an opportunity for another department to focus on the other forms of violence.
Stuff.
And then we could get the Department of Teen Takeovers, the Department of Beach Loitering, and probably the Department of Unlicensed Fruit Purveyors on the sidewalks that can lead to Eleni's favorite foodborne illness breakouts.
Well, we know there's the Department of Unpaid Parking Tickets that we were afflicted by out at O'Hare. The guy who's sitting in
the booth.
bed in a trailer at O'Hare on Easter Sunday, waiting to take your money
And your car, basically. Take your
I think
car.
we're onto something. If we could defund the O'Hare parking ticket, we might be able to solve crime in the city.
Just
This
collect the
podcast
ficus.
strategic solutions. I do think it's kind of funny. Anytime you talk about trying to reduce violence in this state, my mind goes back very specifically to the Neighborhood Recovery Initiative, which was scandal plagued. A great example of what happens when you throw a bunch of money at a problem without any clear idea of how to use that money to actually tackle a solution. To me, this is sort of like the run up to, another example of that.
Yeah, but he won. Didn't work, but he
So,
won.
there's other sorts of crime to Natalie's point and Patrick's point that we need to solve. There's certainly gun crime, but there's also art theft. There is a mystery at City Hall. We love mysteries at City Hall. So there's a painting created by an artist named Bill Cass. It's an abstract, unusual design that the artist, Bill Cass, said was inspired by the Brothers Grimm. I think that this podcast is also inspired by the Brothers Grimm. It's 3 feet by 5 feet, and it hung in the office of Mayor Lightfoot's chief operating officer over a 2-year period between 2021 and 2023. As we know, Mayor Lightfoot no longer in office. Everybody who worked for Mayor Lightfoot packed up their stuff and left. And somewhere in that process, this work of art, 3 feet by 5 feet, that was hanging in Chief Operating Officer Goodrich's office, is missing. It's shocking. Eleni, any leads? You live among the police. Have you heard
Yeah,
anything about this?
they've got their magnifying glasses and are just scouring the city looking for this piece. I'm gonna
How did
guess.
they just realize it was gone?
I mean, someone probably noticed that it was missing, and then they decided we should start an inquisition on this. I'm gonna guess it's never gonna be found,
Well,
unless there's video footage obtained of somebody removing it from the from
Gift room.
City Hall, which is very
well,
likely.
I think someone noticed it was missing and decided to alert our friends at the Watchdog Department over at the Sun Times, Tim Novak and Robert Herguth, and they have this art. They gave a lot of space and time in a recent edition of the Chicago Sun Times to this art theft, and I think to Eleni's point, any good art heist movie always ends up with the work of art, being stashed away somewhere remote, and everyone, spreads out, and maybe it's recovered, decades down the line when you try to cash in or fence those goods. It would be a hard thing to sell at like the Maxwell Street Art Fair, I think. The former the former chief operating officer, Paul Goodrich, denies knowing anything about it. And the Johnson administration never reported the art missing. So the city's curator of collections and public art wrote to the first deputy commissioner of the Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events. I don't believe they have any public safety responsibility yet, but that may be coming. And in this email, curator Nathan Mason said, "I haven't been able to make headway in getting the painting that was installed in Paul Goodrich's office returned. It is not in City Hall. It seems he took it with him when he vacated the office. Can you assist? I'd be happy to take a van and pick it up if necessary." But Goodrich denies having it. And this might be an ongoing investigation that we take part in to try to get to the bottom of that.
Have they checked the landfills? Because I'm going to go with unsupervised cleaning crew on the weekend. Thought it was nice to clean up the walls for the new administration. That's my guess.
It's a lot easier to stash the 3x5 painting than it would be the bean. So all of that sounds mysterious and maybe a little bit terrible. And speaking of terrible, it's time for Sounds Terrible, producer Grace. So who wants to lead off? We've got a good warm-up session here of terrible news. Rachel, why don't you go? You
Sure.
seem prepared today.
Yeah. So mine's actually something that I would usually think sounds terrible, but I found a silver lining about over the last week. I think we can all kind of agree that the delivery robots that go up and down and crash into bus stops and break things are kind of generally terrible. But one thing that I find can make something that's generally terrible a little bit more palatable and sometimes even kind of delightful is good marketing. And I was parking my car last Friday, and coming down the road, I see one of the little delivery robots, but it had been dressed as a minion from the Minions movie. And I thought to myself, that is the most genius use of one of those I've ever seen. And I've never, to be clear, seen a Minions movie, and I still found it like kind of clever and delightful. I appreciated the use of the technology for that purpose. And I would say, you know, usually sounds terrible, kind of cute. I got a picture of it. Grace, I'll send it if you want to add to the segment. A picture of the Minion robot.
I think it's only a matter of time before those robots have corporate sponsor teams that are selling sponsorships for upcoming robot
Well, and that's
cartoons and
clearly what had
movies.
happened. Like this was a paid thing for whatever new Minions movie is coming out, and I thought that's just great. Yeah.
Producer Grace, that's a good one. All right, Patrick, what sounds terrible to you outside of a potted plant winning the Secretary of State's race?
Well, that could be better than Secretary of State Powell hiding all the cash. But I just want
Google
everyone
that,
to know,
folks.
folks, I know we've been concerned about the climate change on this podcast, and we can't help but talk about it. But thankfully, California has solved it. We are taking monumental progress as society. California is forcing the shutdown of the Honda gas-powered engines at the Tomorrowland Speedway at Disneyland. After fining
I
Disneyland
heard this.
$54,000 for the use of the legacy Honda engine, which had been enjoyed for generations of young children pretending to drive a car, big government, in the name of saving the planet, is forcing Disney to turn these off and replace them with electric cars. There is no substitute for the noisy, smelly, vibrating Honda metal go-kart at the Tomorrowland Speedway. Generations of future children will be denied the opportunity to experience that, but it is all in the name of saving the climate. Clearly, the emissions off of those go-karts was what had tipped us to the point of no return, and I am glad, in particular, Gavin Newsom and his team of Cracker Jacks are on top of this instead of the forest fires and warehouse burnings and all those other things. Don't worry, it's solved. Electric go-karts coming to the Tomorrowland Speedway.
It sounds like Patrick's a little fired up today, Eleni, but if it's truly going to reach the live up to the billing of Tomorrowland, it seems like those go-karts ought to be driverless.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love living in this state. It's a great state to live in. Illinois, we break records all the time of all sorts of things, but I
The land of Lincoln.
couldn't help but catch this headline yesterday that said we have now broken a tornado record, that we have the 147 tornadoes this year already, ever, like in the nation. Never happened anywhere else, and it's June. So I'm gonna go with that. Sounds really terrible, and I'm very concerned about what the rest of the summer is gonna look like. And it seems like when you live in, you know, a densely populated area, you seem to be hidden a little bit from being hit by this stuff. But I just saw, Patrick, Naperville just a couple weeks ago got touched by a tornado. I hope you guys are doing okay over there.
EF0, the boys had their hard hats on. We were in the basement.
I mean, and now we just got to start building these storm shelters in our homes from tornadoes, from civil war. I mean, sky's the limit at this point. We should start marketing those. I mean, I know we don't do marketing, but maybe that's the new thing we're
New
gonna
line
do.
of business.
Shelters.
It's always good when it sounds terrible, foreshadows more terribleness to come.
Well, I mean, every time we talk about something, it happens. So my home will be destroyed by a tornado this week, no doubt about it.
And a flood.
Maybe Natalie can take
Flood's
you in.
already happened.
What?
Natalie. We're moving on to a tornado now. So
What's terrible in your neck of the woods, Natalie?
I've got two words, and it's terrible, I think, for everybody, not just in my neck of the woods. Alden Global. The Tribune just completed the purchase of my alma mater, where I cut some of my early reporting teeth at the Daily Herald. When we need more news, more access locally, we're going to get less as a result of the acquisition of that paper. So it's a sad demise of one of my first media jobs. So I'm a little verklempt over it.
Yep, we love the media and we love all of the political scoundrels in our state, and we love the fact that the media used to cover them. It'll be halcyon time for corruption if our news gatherers go away, and we have to talk about that deal that recently closed in a future episode, because as I understand it, the employees voted for that.
Yeah, and it's supposedly they've all been rehired by the new entity, but as we've
You know how
seen,
that goes.
the private equity's track record in media and all other industries, news ain't good.
Yeah, not great. So my sounds terrible. We were talking about caps off in the Secretary of State's race. How about tarps off or shirts off? Shirtless political candidates. This sounds terrible to me. Now, I know some of you on the show might say that I've lost my mind because clearly Alexei spends a lot of time working out and is kind of a hottie, showing off those six-pack abs whenever he's got a chance. But what if this spreads? In Major League Baseball, they started this thing called tarps off. A bunch of college baseball players went to a stinking Cardinals game and they took their shirts off and they whipped their shirts in the air to root for their team. And it's spread now across the tarps off section. Tarp is the thing you roll over the infield when the game's over to protect it from rain. The tarps off craze is moving to all different ballparks. What if the shirts off spreads all across politics? And it got me thinking, I don't think we've ever had a mayor or a secretary of state, for that matter, unless George Ryan did something before I worked for him. I don't think we've had a shirtless elected official ever. Which would be, Natalie, which would be your favorite shirtless current or former mayor?
I have
Rich
so many
Daley, Brandon,
right now.
Harold Washington.
I mean, I'm gonna go
J-
classic Mayor Daley. I mean, that
I
would be
feel like there must have been a tarp.
put him in a white beater. I'm sure we're not supposed to use that term anymore, but that's what I'm going with.
I mean, there must have been a tarps off moment for Mayor Daley at some point.
sure.
There must have been.
Well,
Peter Lorre,
he
equal opportunity.
Gene Byrne. Yeah, ponder that. Ponder your favorite shirtless mayor, and maybe we'll be talking about it in future episodes of Can't Wait. Sounds terrible. For Eleni, Rachel, Natalie, Patrick, and producer Grace behind the scenes, wearing a shirt, spinning the dials. We thank all of you for participating. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.